Hey, how's it going there, folks? Welcome back here to a Thursday. It is the Earthmaster out here, May 9th, 2024. It's about 11:09 a.m. here, California time. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 1.3 into the area of Alaska. We'll get to the earthquake activity here in a little bit. But for now, just coming down from another X-flare. Look at this. Another X-flare. We did see some larger X-flare activity overnight as expected. Not quite the level that I was expecting, but we're not done yet in terms of the potential for strong X-flare activity out here. Now, too numerous to count, but we've had a wealth of events here over the last couple days here. Lots of M flares, many X flares. The most recent one coming in looks like an X. Let's see what it peaked out at. About an X 1.1 or so. That is the most recent X flare. Overnight was the X 2.2, somewhere around there, 2.2 that came in early this morning. That was from 3664 as well. And of course, the culprit is going to be this ginormous sunspot region right here. Looking promising here, producing some stronger flaring as it's currently facing the Earth. And of course, this thing has shot off quite a few CMEs in the Earth-directed view. I want to make sure I'm recording here. I had a little incident last night where the stream was recording for about 10 hours. And then it stopped recording when I did my update. So, pretty crazy. Either way, this is a very complex sunspot, very similar to... I've seen a few folks mentioning the Carrington event back in the 1800s there, where we've seen that massive solar flare and associated CME event that, it sparked auroras all around the world in both northern and southern hemispheres. And in the Rocky Mountains there, the auroras were so bright that the glow from the auroras woke up the gold miners, who began preparing breakfast because they thought it was morning. Goodness. So, obviously a similar event today would put a little damper out here on our very dependent electrical systems. Everything revolves around electricity. Satellite stuff up there in space is, there's so much junk up there in space. Lots of satellites beyond any what one could imagine. We'll have to take a look at that one of these nights. I've seen a recent map here, and there's you'd be surprised at how much stuff is up there above our heads, and it's kind of scary because if all those go down, well, they're going to have to land somewhere, and I wouldn't want it in my house or in my backyard. All right, so here's the recent sunspot here, 3664. That's from last night. Let's check out the complexity today. See what we got here for the latest magnetogram image. And man, it is still very active. A lot of close proximity here of the magnetic fields, the positive, the negative areas here intermixing. And it still looks like it's possible that we could see some stronger X flaring than what we're seeing right now. That's about the only sunspot that is of noteworthy value. This area up here on the northwestern quadrant is just about out of sight now. And goodness. All right, so we do have an incoming G3 class storm. They've upgraded this now. Could be a dandy of a weekend here for Aurora watchers, with multiple rounds of CMEs in the Earth-directed view. Earth-directed location is set to stir up out here. Beginning, the earliest looks as though it's going to be May 10th between 12 and 1800 UTC time. Right now it is May 9th, 1800 UTC time. So we're looking at as early as Friday night into Saturday as well. Saturday night potentially seeing some active conditions. So it's going to be a dandy of a storm. I don't see it missing us, so let's double check and see if they've updated any maps here in terms of their forecast models. Looks like they have, so let's put this into motion. Of course, X-flare popping off along with the subsequent CME here recently. Look at those multiple rounds of CMEs that are headed this direction. So that's going to stir up the magnetic field and potentially give us an awesome show. Look at this. Watch, there's at least 3. There was 2 right there. 3, 4. Looks like there's a combined 4 coming at us. And they look fairly strong in terms of the plasma density, the elevated speed way up there as well. Going to be a hard hit to the planet. This is going to be a test of tests, because a lot of times here we've seen elevated earthquake activity occur when the Earth is getting hit with either a bombardment of protons or elevated large CME activity. And this will be a test to see what happens here. We've seen earthquake activity really ramp up following arrivals such as this strong CME, and I'll be shocked if we don't see something larger on the terms of earthquake activity when this thing begins to affect the Earth here, beginning tomorrow, roughly about tomorrow night or so. Again, expecting a G3 class storm as forecasted. Let's back off of that real quick. G3 is the R3. This is the R3 radiation storm being observed from all the X flares, but actually these guys are calling G4. It doesn't look like Kevin's updated his map over here yet, but yeah, these guys are actually forecasting a G4 storm. Woo! All right, so G4 is a severe geomagnetic storm. Could see this down maybe into Northern California. So let's see here. Power systems, the effects of it, possible widespread voltage control problems, and some protective systems will mistakenly trip out key assets from the grid. Spacecraft operations may experience surface charging and tracking problems. Corrections may be needed for orientation problems. Other systems include pipeline currents, affect preventative measures, HF radio propagation, sporadic satellite navigation degraded for hours, low frequency radio navigation disrupted, and auroras has been seen as low as Alabama and Northern California, so typically about 45 geomagnetic latitude. Well, I'm gonna have to be out there watching now, because we don't have any storms or anything like that in the forecast. So we got clear skies. That north wind's been keeping us clear as a bell, clear as a, I don't know about a bell, but yeah. So G4. Been a while since we've seen any G4 storming conditions out here. So if this doesn't spark up, big time earthquake activity, then they probably put that thought and theory to rest. We'll take a look here at earthquake activity in just a little bit, but that's quite impressive here. Predicted for 5:11 UTC time. So the brunt of this looks like it's going to be on 5:11. They're still kind of going along with what Kevin's stating here. It's tomorrow night. Could be super early on Saturday morning. Let's see here, 0 to 600, or maybe early. This is going to be early on Saturday, right? It's May 9th right now, UTC time 1800. This is going to be for tomorrow night. This technically could be super early Saturday. We'll have to watch this and see if these update or not. I don't think Kevin's updated this. Look at that number right there, 333. Woohoo! Significant number for me, and sure a lot of other folks out there. But all right, so we'll have to watch this. Mid to late day on May 9th, unsettled to active conditions are possible. So they're even talking about mid to late day on May 9th. By late on May 10th, which is tomorrow, the 2 Halo CMEs from May 8th are anticipated to arrive at Earth. So these guys here, Kevin's mentioning that this could be a tomorrow event, late tomorrow. All right, so we'll double check back on this tonight for the correct times, but it looks as though potentially as early as tonight we could start seeing some effects of these CMEs that have been kicked off at us. Coming down from that X flare right now, currently at an M4.2. Look at these conditions here: elevated X flare at 60%, M flare 95% chance, and C flare obviously 99% chance. 1, 2, 3, 4 X flares just in the last couple days. That is crazy. So the largest one so far, last couple days, X 2.2. Now that's a little ways from the top so far, but I still think we could pop this out of the water if we get it going, and it's still very complex in terms of that sunspot. X 6.3 have seen a lot of stronger flares than this, but this is the solar cycle 25, and this has been the strongest one so far. But we have a chance of squashing that record from sunspot number 3664. Now, again, this is a very complex sunspot. Got to keep an eye on that. It's still currently in the Earth-directed view. But it's scooting off there a little bit towards the southwestern quadrant. Still geo-effective. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that monster. That's a dandy of a sunspot. Goodness. All right, so right now auroras are pretty quiet, but we'll watch this. We'll cover this a little bit later on this evening as well. Let's see what we got for earthquake activity out here with all this X flare activity. I'm leaning more towards the arrival of proton events that bombard the planet, or the arrival of a large CME that impacts the planet more stressfully on the magnetic field that affects the plates out here, because we haven't seen anything really to chat about in the last couple days in terms of any large-scale earthquake activity. Don't let anyone fool you. This is a very quiet map compared to any given day. There's really not a whole lot happening out here. There's no major earthquake swarms, no major large movement. In fact, if you look at the largest magnitude, well, that was from yesterday. That was a 5.1. Woo, whoop-de-doo. So we're going to have to see what happens here when that CME hits us later tonight. The chances from later tonight through tomorrow and tomorrow night. This thing should light up. If it doesn't, then we could probably put that theory to rest. I know there's percentages of when earthquakes kick up with space weather, and then there's times when I've seen space weather activity ramp up, and it really hasn't done anything in terms of earthquake activity. But we'll see. This is going to be an excellent test on that theory of space weather and earthquake activity relation. So what do we have going on here? Is there anything worth noting out here across California? West Coast area? I mean, I guess this little bit of small earthquake activity out here near the Joshua Tree region is the only thing popping up here in my eyes, because of the location here just off the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault within this bend area. And obviously there's quite a bit of strain built up here across the plate boundary. Many generations have talked about the big one. I remember hearing about it as a kid. Yeah, California is going to fall off into the ocean. Well, that's not technically possible. This is not a subduction zone. There's no way this is going to break off. It's literally impossible. This is a strike-slip zone, and transform faults do not produce, these up and down motions. These are kind of a slide past each other plate movement here, and it's, you can kind of see it right here. Pretty simple view of it. Pacific plate moving off to the northwest, North American plate moving off to the southeast, but general plate movement of all the plates here kind of moving off towards the west. Even the North American plate kind of making a counterclockwise motion, but at the same time it's got a little momentum moving off there as well to the west. So, all right, so not a whole lot going on here for earthquake activity across California. Yellowstone National Park doesn't look like, let me see what we got here for Yellowstone. No seismograph stations located. All right, the site must be down. Let's see what we got here from the University of Utah. See if they're up and running or not. This is going to be the Yellowstone overview. The specific seismograph stations here. We'll check this one out, just one of them, see what's going on. Really not seeing anything at all. A couple very small spikes of an earthquake there, but really that's not even worth mentioning. Out here in Hawaii, doesn't look like anything's popped yet. Still seeing earthquake activity up there leading off towards the upper east rift zone. Let's go ahead and check out the latest informational statement here from the USGS, if they have it up and running. Kilauea Volcano still sitting at a yellow and advisory. Update was put out yesterday here. So far as anything changing in terms of data, there's definitely some earthquake activity out here. Excuse me. Overnight, well, early this morning. Since then, it looks like it's died off a little bit. The deformation data, let's go ahead and check this out here. Last time we checked, we were on a sharp rise. Looks like recently we've seen a little bit of decline, a little bit of deflation going on, but that's just a very minor amount compared to what we've seen here over the past year or so, past couple years actually. We've seen that huge displacement of magma back in February. That's that huge displacement right there. That's why it dropped off the chart like that. But we're back up there. But these little minor deformation or deflation, I should say, deflation events are not really making a dent in it. I still think we're going to go up and up and up in terms of inflation. We've got to watch this pretty closely because things are well pressurized underneath that region of Kilauea Volcano. The Iceland activity, another story. Got to watch earthquake activity, right? Look where it's at. A little bit further south today into the Grindavik area. Let's check out the live from Iceland. As far as I know, the surface eruption there has halted across the main crater area. There hasn't been any fountaining out here for a couple days. Things are on a standstill right now. But don't let this calm image fool you. There's a lot of pressurization going on underneath this area of the Svart-Singi region. And earthquake activity is going to be key into watching where the next eruptive activity takes place. I don't think it's going to be in this region, just the way that it's basically been an eruption stage, almost a month and a half, almost 2 months, I think. Just recently calmed down. And even with this ongoing here, we've seen the Svart-Singi reservoir area recharge to maximum capacity almost, but with little change to the amount of volume that was being produced here. So that tells me right here that this intrusion is dead, and we're going to see a new intrusion area. And again, the earthquake activity will give us a good indicator where that's going to be. 61 earthquakes out here today. They've even mentioned here it could be south of Hagafell. It's, and obviously it could include further down south here. Let me check out, see if they got any new updates from the Icelandic Met Office, which, this was put out today. No activity in the crater. This eruption is over. This is, again, translated here by Google Translate from Icelandic to English, so the wording might be a little off. So now the probability of new magma flow and another eruption continues to increase. It's, the land is continuing to inflate. The warning of a new eruption could be very short, obviously, but we've seen this in the past. Earthquake activity, a time frame window of probably about 30 minutes. Intense earthquake activity in the area where the fissure activity is going to open up, and you got about 30 minutes or even less. So it looks like there's about 13 million cubic meters of magma underneath this area. This is the most recent inflation. Look at that. We're definitely up there compared to some time back. You know, the past couple eruptions here. They reach a certain level before we see a new magma intrusion somewhere with eruptive activity. And we're getting up there. So any time, any day, things could kick up. So we'll continue to watch that. Again, earthquake activity is key to watching where things are moving. Weather outlook here real quick. Got some massive hail potential out here across almost the entire area of the south. Tornado threat, not that big compared to the days past, but it's not entirely out of the question here to see some tornadoes out here. 5 and 2% zone. Again, main threat's going to be some wind and some large damaging hail out here across this area today. After today, that weather scoots off a little bit further to the east, and then we got a little break. Things appear to be calming down for a little bit here in terms of severe weather, so that is good news for those folks out there. They need a break. They have to recover from all that activity they've seen here recently. I just can't stop looking at this. I don't think this thing is over. It reminds me of a Carrington sunspot, like a big-time event about ready to take place. I mean, look at this complexity here. That is, I think that's going to be one for the books here. Again, overall threat, 60% chance for an X flare. We've seen, now 1, 2, 3, 4 from this sunspot, and numerous other ones from the previous sunspot that's off on the northwestern quadrant now of the sun. But this thing is just consistently flaring with M-flare activity, and it looks like it just wants to spark off X flares all day. We'll see if we don't get something bigger than our top flare so far this solar cycle. It's been an X 6.3. That was back in February. They can get much, much bigger than that, folks. A lot bigger. And, of course, these big flares, the effects of that activity can reach the planet here in moments, about 7 minutes or so. The CME activity, obviously, the plasma cloud takes a little bit longer to reach the Earth, roughly between, depending on how fast it is, 48 to 72 hours. This one coming in is a dandy of a CME, and there's multiple rounds of CME activity coming in with the G4 class storm once again. That is expected to stir up out here beginning late tonight and through tomorrow. G4 class storm, folks. Look at that, G4. The highest level gets us up around the G5 or so. Right here, KP index of 9. So we'll watch and see what we don't get here over tonight and tomorrow night. I'm hoping this doesn't come up midday tomorrow, where it's sunny on this side, at least on the North American side. That means that the folks there across Europe, Asia area are going to get a whopper of an Aurora storm out there. But we'll see what happens. We'll check back on this a little bit later tonight. Either way, not too often do we get forecasted for a G4 class storm. Again, that's just one step below the G5 category. And auroras, again, possible down into Northern California, my neck of the woods here, and Alabama. All right, we'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening, unless something major happens, unless we see another significant major flare. Of course, we'll pop on and cover that. Enjoy your Thursday, Friday, right around the corner. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later.